You know, we're here to talk about real situations and experiences all under the umbrella of DEI. So I have to ask you this. Do you think representation in our workforce matters? Why or why not?
No, man, absolutely. I definitely say it matters, and that's across the board. Workforce, day-to-day life. But yeah, man, it matters. So.
What do you think that experience would have done had you had additional Black male educators?
Well, for one, I mean, just having somebody that you can relate to, I think it allows you to open up, it helps you to take that guard down. So, you know, we know who we could play with versus who we can't play with. You know who you could run certain things with and get away with it, and you know who you can't. I'm just, again, talking about as a young kid growing up. So you know what games you can play. And I just think that for us, many of us were coming from single parent households. So many of us only lived in the house with our mother. So having a strong Black male around, it wasn't just at school where that was lacking, that was also in our personal lives as well. So I think for many of us, having that or having more examples of that would have, you know, been a great way to show us the steps that we need to take and where we need to, you know, aspire to go. And so, you know, a male teacher, let alone a Black male teacher, that wasn't something that made any sense to us at the time, but it would have really been critical in terms of our overall development.
Yes, so I have two questions. We're going to talk about your exit from the K-12 world, but before we talk about that, I want to talk about why we don't see an increased representation of, as you stated, Black male educators in our field. Why do you think we have such a dearth of representation of the Black male experience in our field?
That's a great question. That's a great question, and I don't know if I'm the best to answer that, because, you know, it's been some time for me as far as education is concerned. I don't know. I have no idea why there's such a shortage, but I mean, the reality is there is definitely a shortage. Maybe from your experience, you'd be able to say to me, I think when it comes to education, we see a larger presence of women in general.
Yeah, except in leadership, ironically.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
We do see more males in leadership.
In leadership,
which
not
is
so much
strange.
in the classroom.
Yeah.
Well, that probably
and that goes against.
Yeah, that probably highlights the problem right there.
Yeah.
In many ways, because if the men are in leadership but not in the classrooms, or don't have that classroom experience, and how are they going to help implement a foundation for those that are putting in the work in the classroom to thrive and best be able to suit the students? I mean, it's kind of like, not to get into politics, but that's kind of like a man that can never give birth to a child telling women what they can and can't do when it comes to, you know, when it comes to childbirth. Like that's outrageous to me.
I think that's a huge part of our educational history that comes from male being perceived as better leaders, as better operational folks, and so we had a lot of you know, during that period, a lot of male leaders go in because they were thought as being great disciplinarians and being great, and so they were thought of as the leaders. But now we know that everyone can lead just as well. So we do need to strengthen that pipeline.